Hi guys, hello my fellow Levy and Campaign series fans. I am welcome you to another material about Plantagenet, the fourth game in the Levy and Campaign series, game by Francisco Garadille, and of course the series being created by Folko Runke. We already saw the materials which look at the components, the historical background, teaches us how to play end-to-end the game, shows us the battle, post-war battle, so how the battles are resolved. But let us assume that you are a seasoned, experienced player in Levy and Campaign game, and you would like to only learn what is new, what has changed, what are the main changes to the system, to the game mechanics. Then you would probably like to see this video. Today, I will be focusing entirely on new solutions to the Levy and Campaign system. How do I perceive them? How do they change the gameplay? And what are the most important implications of introducing them? You can, of course, as always in the games from the series, find them in the rulebook. So we have the rulebook here for Plantagenet, and on the first page, or second page, you have a summary of changes from earlier volumes, and this will be actually the mark in the rules which shows us the changes. All changes are marked here: bigger, smaller, larger, more impactful. Everything is here. But what I would like to do is, in this video, to focus only on the fundamental things. There will be like 5 groups of them, which I would like to show, and also explain the impact of gameplay of them. So I believe this will be pretty informative for you guys. So without further delay, let us move to the main changes, main new solutions in Levy and Campaign system. For example, regarding showing the changes, we'll use the setup of a first scenario, so the first War of the Roses, where we have Henry here in London, we have York here, we have March here, and yeah, there is a rebellion of Yorks against Lancasters. But it's only to show the grant, and it's only as an example. We could potentially show the differences on each and every other scenario. Let's start with the locales and ways. So actually the change which is most visible visually on the map in the Plantagenet. First of all, as you remember in the past, for the locales, we usually have castles, cities, towns. Yeah, so both Almoravid had them. It was city, fortress, town, castle. And also, for example, Inferno, I have also, player 8, city, town, castle. In Plantagenet, we also have those 3 types. So we have towns, cities, fortresses. Slightly different, but not much difference. The big difference is that we have 3 special locales. 3 special locales will be London, will be Calais, and will be Halle. And those 3 special will have some specific yield as far as the levy of the troops is concerned, as far as the provender is concerned, coins, and a number of assets you can get when you pillage those areas. Of course, it will be also different influence, but this is a separate story. So in this game, you have 3 special areas where you need to really pay attention to. So Harlech, London, Calais, they are key, and believe me, you would like to control them. Second thing regarding locales is that we have exile boxes in Plantagenet. We have France, Burgundy, Scotland, and Ireland, and we mark for each and every scenario which side, Yorks and Lancasters, can actually move there, escape. Let's say escape. It's go to exile. This is probably the good name. In the War of the Roses, there was a lot of exiles, a lot of leaders actually preferred to go to exile than face the opponent in the battle. both Lancastrian and York side. So those exile boxes will be very important because the leaders will be coming back from exile to those boxes and then moving to the map. So this is second very dramatic change. The third thing is that we have, I would say, geographical areas. We have south, we have Wales, and we have north, control of which will be granted as victory points. So in this game, you have something you can say area control, because the points for this will not be one time. Every turn, if you control those areas, you will be gaining victory points. Unlike, for example, in Nevsky, Almoravid, or Inferno, where you took over some area, you were getting the points, but only once. Here you will be getting the points every turn for those areas. And last but not least, in the locales and ways, let's say, subsection of my video, is that we have three types of ways. We have highway, road, and path. There is different speed on them. Highways are really fast. You can move 2 locales at the cost of 1 command, which is much faster than it was in the past, in the previous installments. Road is simply 1 by command, and path is the whole card. So as you can see, there is broader array of the ways to be where you can move, and also you can sail from ports to ports, from sea to port. So there's also a lot of sailing here in this game. There were ships, I believe, in Inferno already. Some initial ship ideas in Almoravid, but here the ships really allows you to move around the map a lot. There is no Laden, so there is a limit how many provender you can take on cars, but other than that, there is no Laden, so you will not be moving slower or faster. You simply move always the same speed, if you can move at all, of course, if you don't have too much provender. And these are the most explicit changes visually on the map, the locales and ways. Let's move to the next step. The next point will be influence. And guys, influence is the biggest change in the whole system so far, from my perspective. There was no such a tremendous change so far, and I believe this is a distinct new implementation in comparison to Nevsky, Almoravid, and Inferno. What is influence? Influence in this game has 2 functions. First of all, this is the victory points. Influence points are victory points. You have a track here which shows, depending on the color, who has advantage. Yeah, red is advantage on the Lancastrian side, white is on the Yorkish side. You don't calculate points like in previous games here, that this side has that many points, this side has that many points. No, you only calculate the net points. So these are the victory points, but at the same time, it is resource. The tricky thing, which I love in Plantagenet, is that you are spending your victory points to earn with time more victory points, because spending influence points will allow you to spread your influence on the map. You see those markers here? Those markers show which side has influence in particular locale. At the beginning of the game, of the first scenario, Ellie and Ludo are the York aligned, and London and Wales are Lancastrian aligned. But of course, during the game, you will be able to spread this. There will be actions, namely parlay, which will allow you to spread it. But in order to spread the influence, you need to use influence for influence check action. For parlay, parlay actually involves influence check. So influence on one side gives you the possibility to spread, your support, simply your influence on the map, but at the same time, it's a victory point. And, this is a strategic consideration, where to invest, how to use it, especially that you will be gaining influence each and every turn. At the end of turn, you have a special phase which is called Tides of War, and the Tides of War will be giving you influence for 3 special areas: Calais, London, and Harlech, but also for whoever has more towns, cities, or fortresses aligned via influence to him. So on top of this, we'll have also, the lords, but we'll talk about it later. All in all, influence is the biggest, most fundamental change, and completely changes your thinking about how to lead those wars, how to spread your influence. You will be getting influence every turn. You will be getting influence also every turn for those areas, geographical areas I was telling you about. You will be gaining the influence for beating your opponents in the battle. You will be gaining influence for having more cities, towns, fortresses. So there will be a lot of ways to get it. Interesting thing is that getting the let's say control or influence in particular area replaces in this game sieges and storms. There are no sieges, there are no storms. This is another fundamental thing which is directly derived from the fact that we are using influence here and influence concept. So no sieges, no storms, and no bypass, and no stop at enemy locale. All those things are not working like that here. So for example, if we have Somerset here, he would be able to move like this using 1-2 command. There is no stopping at enemy influence because the fact is that in this was a civil war. Let's be honest. This was a civil war, and those influence points does not show the full, total, 100% control over one or the other side over this territory, but rather a sympathy of this territory towards one of the sides. You cannot, of course, pass through the space where is the enemy lord with the forces, but you can pass all other areas even with the enemy influence. So to sum up, second largest, most fundamental change in Plantagenet is influence, which really makes, for me personally, this a very interesting game with a very important strategic consideration: how to use it, where to invest, how to choose your battles, also when to bring the lords, which will be giving you the influence, because lords will be also having some influence factor. We'll talk about it in a moment, and this will be contributing at the end of some of the turns, gain lord influence to your victory points. So this is new, and that I wanted to underline. Third thing which I would like to talk about is lords, and we have a lot of changes in the lords area. Just for a comparison, let me bring the lords, for example, from Almoravid and from Inferno. I hope you can see them in my camera here. They should be almost perfectly visible. Let me just move it down. So what changes do we have in the area of lords and vassals? Yeah, because we'll cover both areas now. First of all, there are no mats, there are cards. You see, in Almoravid you have a special dedicated mat, for example, for Al Mutamid, or here for Siena Podesta. Here we have cards, and you actually, out of a card, troops and assets, you combine how the particular lord mat will look like. Now the question is, why do we have it here? The question is very straightforward. During those civil wars, those guys were oftentimes changing the sides. Such Warwick in scenario 1 is supporting York, but in scenario 2 he is supporting Lancastrian side. And actually, he has slightly different values here also. So you see, depending on the particular scenario, it's either here or here. So does it make sense to produce a lot of lords mats if they are changing? Another thing is that lords are developing over the time. Gloucester is a good example. You have version 1 and version 2. In version 1, these are his parameters. In version 2, they are much better, especially in the influence area. Also, slightly different composition of the forces and also of the assets, starting assets. So that's really the main reason why you have Lord cards and not Lord marks. What else do we have? If we compare Almoravid Nevsky and Inferno to the Plantagenet, we see that we don't have 3 characteristics, but we have 4 characteristics, and they are slightly different. That's service, lordship, and command. Yes. Here we have influence, lordship, command, and valor. So lordship and command are the same. Lordship is used during the levy phase, command during the campaign phase. Influence is a very important metric, which of course directly impacts the influence victory points and the influence concept in this game. This is the metric for the influence check. You roll a die, and if you roll the value of the influence or less, then you are successful. So having 5 influence is fantastic, because only 6 will be a failure. And also influence will be gained by each lord who is on the map, not in exile, not in the calendar, at the end of some turns. So influence is a new thing on the lord card. Another thing is valor. Valor allows you, for example, for a reroll in battle. You can reroll as many times as much valor you have. For example, Gloucester would have 2, Warwick has 1, Henry has 0. And valor is also allowing you to intercept the enemy lords. For example, if this lord is going here, there's 1 way of distance. Those lords can potentially try to intercept this lord. So valor is a new thing also, which was added. I'm looking in my notes. And one more thing important, I just checked in my note about it, is also you have hair. If you play a campaign, you can combine all 3 words together. You would also have the mark whether particular lord is hair. This is hair 4, so he's 4th in the line of succession. So if there are hairs with a lower value, so 1, 2, 3, they will be kings during particular scenario, because here the lords will be dying a lot. Yes. Now, if you look at the map, you see that the seats for the lords are marked with counters, because if lord dies, you remove it. And in some of the scenarios you have some of the lords, in some you don't have, so you simply remove those markers. And that shows it's easier for a setup, I believe, and also shows where and who was active during the particular war. There is a huge change regarding vassals. As you can see in Almoravid or in Inferno, you had them here, and you can levy them and gain some troops. And Siena had their vassals, Al-Mutamid had their vassals. Here, this is not working like this. Here we have civil war. Each and every vassal can be levied by both sides. They have some preference, which will be shown on their, let's say, markers, but still both sides can trade. Vassals are those markers, as you can see, and they can be levied by what? Influence check. Exactly. If you do an influence check, pay influence properly, and roll well, you will be able to get them. Some of the vassals likes more the York side. So 1 white means that you add 1 to the roll. For if the York side tries to levy the slot, if the Lancastrian side tries to levy him, then they will deduct. And there is one more who likes. Here is 2. They like York very much. Here is 2 on red, so they like Lancastrian side very much. So it's much easier to levy them. with the influence. When you levy the particular vassal, what you are doing is putting him that many spaces on the calendar, so that's how long he will be with you. So this was advanced rule in previous games in Almoravid, Inferno, and Nevsky, where you have also length of service for vassals. Here, this is a regular rule, and you put such vassal on the mat here. And if you look at this area here, yeah, you have also something called retinue, but we'll talk about it in a moment. We now focus only on vassals. So this is the way you levy him. He starts in the levy phase 1, so he will be here, and you would need to pay influence to prolong him serving you. So again, this is the solution regarding vassals, which came from the type of conflict we had here. We have here a civil war. All those vassals actually can join one on the other side. Actually, some of those vassals in some of the scenarios will be played as a lord. For example, Devon in some of the scenarios will be here not like vassal, but he will have a normal card and normal, cylinder, and he will be playing as a lord. So that concludes the lords and vassals part. Let's move to the next point. The fourth point I would like to discuss about are forces. And I will discuss this in two areas and two dimensions. First of all, we have some new forces on the Lord mat. So this is retinue, and these are the vassals, which we actually levied in a moment ago. Yeah, previous part of this material. Retinue are all those knights who were accompanying the lord, and vassals are now not bringing any wooden, let's say, forces, but they bring themselves and they fight themselves. And let me show you regarding the forces. In general, there is fewer types, I would say. We'll do a comparison in a moment, and there are no some of the main, how to say it, main characteristic as it was in the past. So what new forces do we have? First of all, we have this retinue with armor 1/4, but if it dies, the lord rolls. We have vassals, which have strength of 2 and armor 1/4. So vassal is not bringing any of those units, but he himself is fighting pretty fiercely, giving 2 in melee. The retinue gives 3 in melee and having pretty nice armor. What you can see is that there's a very few regular type of units. Actually 3. Men-at-arms, longbowmen, and militia. Because the mercenaries and handgunners, they can only come via events. So let's say there's only a couple of them, like 4 of those, 2 of those, something like this. So we can forget about them and neglect them for now. What's important, we have 3 types: men-at-arms, longbowmen, militia. No horses here, no cavalry here, mainly the foot. The only cavalry is here and most probably in here. There is no evade, only some of the forces can do the range attack, although longbowmen have a very fearsome attack too. If you compare it, for example, to Almoravid, where we have a plethora of units, you see, these were the foot units, these were the cavalry units. A lot of them had evade. There is no evade here. The armor was poorer, that's for sure. Yeah, as you can see, there was a lot of events which were enhancing those units. Yeah, definitely, that was different. And by the way, those units which were here could be also as a garrison of the strongholds. There is no garrison now. You just take influence this way or that way, and nobody is defending them. The only forces you have now in Plantagenet are with the actual lord. For the Inferno, Again, you had foot units and you have the cavalry, unlike in Plantagenet, where you don't have cavalry, but still it was fewer, yeah. It was, well, maybe not fewer, but less complex, I believe. And here we have only that amount of forces. So there is a difference. Three typical forces, so militia, and men-at-arms and longbowmen. To this you add a retinue. To this you add vassals, and that's everything which is in Plantagenet. So and there is no evade. Not so many units can actually fire in a range. There is no cavalry. The strongholds does not have garrisons. You just simply take them by the influence. I believe that will be all for the forces. It was a quick change to show. Now the last point. As a last main difference, which I would like to discuss, it will be about battles. And battles, believe me, are changed. There is a couple of things which are changing, and of course, the beautiful and fantastic player aid shows us the whole battle nicely described here. So what is changing in the battle? Of course, as in the past, the lords will face each other. Let me just take those from here. So they will face each other. Let me tell you. Let it be Henry and Warwick, but it could be also other lords which will be facing each other. Now, first of all, the battle now is divided into a couple of engagements. So the lords will fight at separate engagements. Let me maybe use this. That will be easier. So, for example, if we have such a situation, yes, and give me maybe that way, they will be in the reserve. In such case of such a battle, we have three different engagements. Why is it important? Because here in those battles, the routing or actually withdrawing is per engagement. So it could be that, for example, this leader is routed, or maybe withdrawing, and then this is a particular singular engagement which is happening. It's not like we all rout or we all stay and win. Yeah, no. It can be that that some of them will rout, some of them will stay. Important thing is that before the battle, on approach, for example, let me move with those guys here. On approach, there is no something like avoid battle, no evading. They have option only to battle or to go to exile. And the scenario tells where this leader will go to exile. This is white leader, so Burgundy or Ireland. And the other side will score the victory points, the influence, the same way as they would win the battle with them. But he is not risking. It's actually she is not risking, possibility of dying in battle. I will tell you about this in a moment, because there is a possibility to die in the battle. When the Lord disbands, so when the Lord is actually disbanding, it's when they lose all of the wooden pieces in the battle or retinue. So if retinue routes or all the wooden pieces routes, the Lord disbands. And what's happening is that we will check if he dies at the end of the battle. We roll a die, 1 6-sided die, and on a roll of 3 to 6, he will die, unless before he had all the units routed, the wooden pieces or the retinue, he declared, I'm withdrawing, I'm escaping. Then he is not fighting anymore, but he's getting one more hit from the enemy. But then he has this modifier, flat -2, which means that at the end of the battle, he rolls a die, but he doesn't die on 3 to 6, but only on 5 and 6. So it's kind of a way to show that it's much easier to survive if the battle goes bad for you and you try to withdraw. Still, you can die. 5, 6 is 1/3. Without fleeing, it's 3 to 6, so it's 2/3. Yeah, that's important. Thing to change. But probably the most fundamental change, maybe I should start from this, in the battle is that in each of engagements, we have, of course, missile fire first, then melee, but this is simultaneous. You don't have those situations where first the defender was doing the range, then the attacker was doing the range attack, then the defender was doing the melee attack, then the defender melee attack. No, here this is simultaneous, which means that you don't need to have, I don't know, 2 times larger army to win a battle. It's much more now equal. Still, of course, there are things which will impact and influence battle, but the most important thing is that you do the range fire simultaneously and the melee battle simultaneously, which does not help the defender so much. So I believe in the previous games it was really difficult to win a battle as an attacker if you did not have a really huge advantage in the troops. Now it's much easier. And of course, if your rolls are not good, you can use the valor, as I told you. You get it at the beginning of the battle and you just use it, and you can reroll it. So I believe battles are fundamentally changed. Individual engagement, possibility of Lord dying, and then you remove everything: his seed, his card, his mat, everything. And on approach, you can only battle or avoid the battle and go to exile, not just move somewhere else. And of course, simultaneous attacks changes the balance of the game. Okay, guys, that would be everything what I had for today about Plantagenet, the 4th game in the Levy Campaign series. My plan today was to show you what is the new mechanics in this title. I really like it. What I like the most is each and every title in the series is so refreshing, brings so much new solutions, so much new interesting, areas. In Inferno, we had, for example, treachery. In Almoravid, we had Taifa politics. Nevsky, of course, was the first in the series, so he was setting the standard. Now in Plantagenet, we have influence, which completely changes the strategic planning in the game. We have permanent death of the Lord. We have slightly different battles. We have, Lords changing allegiance during the scenarios. It's all making the game really refreshing. At the same time, the core of the system stays. We have campaign phase, we have levy phase, we muster the troops, we plan with the cards how we will move during particular turn. This predefined planning of the campaign with the Lord card is something which I love, because you simply set your ideas for the next turn and you execute it, and whether it backfires or maybe you can use some really lucky play, it's up to you, and it's really great in the system. So very refreshing addition to the Levy Campaign series, and can't wait for the next to come. And the next one will be Seljuk, where we will move to the battles between the Byzantine Empire and the Seljuks. It will be even more interesting for me from historical perspective, because I simply love ancient and medieval Rome battles. That's all for today. If you liked this video, please give a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this, do not hesitate and subscribe. Every subscription counts for as much, such as small content creator like Boardgames Chronicle. Also, please use the section below for any comments, questions, or ideas you would like to share. Thanks, and thanks for watching.